All right, guys, we're back. So we had to book our tickets, and there was only one flight a week
Yeah,
to for any of those Taiwanese stragglers left in the Philippines.
like
I
us.
feel like we were like the last ones.
No, not really, but yeah,
Yeah, not really, but they only have one flight a week. In fact, we had actually booked for the week before, but it got canceled, I think.
right.
And then we got moved to the next week. So, actually, even getting the flight, you got to make sure that they actually have a flight to go back. Then, secondly, you got to make sure all your papers are in place. Our Filipino citizen, thank God that we had already got his residency for Taiwan.
Basically, Taiwan, just like many countries, they close their borders for non-citizens and non-residents.
Right. And then what else? What else do we need to prepare? We need to prepare our place to stay. So in quarantine, if you are an adult with a child, um, you'll stay in one room. But if you are two adults with one child and you go to a quarantine hotel, they will split you up. So that was something that we could not do.
Can't even see each other. We're like right
Yeah.
next to each other, so
Yeah.
there's no way. We didn't want to do that.
Yeah, so there's two ways. You go to a quarantine hotel or you go home. We can't go home because we have an elderly in our house in Taipei. So basically, there's another option is that if you are in a home, basically that's one of our friends had a home that they actually don't use. They live elsewhere. So we just use that as our home. Actually, that home, luckily for us, actually has two bathrooms. That's one of the rules. So there's another rule is that you have to have two bathrooms if you have two adults.
Really nice apartment, and it was 3 bedrooms. It
Right.
had 2 baths.
Right.
It had 3 balconies, which
Yeah.
is awesome because Kali can sort of go out of the house
Right.
without really going out. Um, and it was very spacious,
Yeah.
and the kitchen was big,
Yeah.
and it really was. It felt like a
Oh,
holiday. It
we
felt like
had
a
a great
vacation.
time.
We had a great time in quarantine.
One thing we haven't touched on is what is the airport like? So when we got to the Manila airport, everyone was actually wearing hazmats. Like, kid you
Yeah,
not, everyone actually had hazmats, and all of the kids, I mean,
it,
bigger and smaller than Kali, would
it
wear
was.
their freaking face mask, except for Kali.
We didn't expect that many people in the airport because we thought, oh, it's lockdown, so there's got to be, it's got to be like very light traffic in the airport. We got in there, there was huge lines.
Yeah,
It really felt like a movie. And then we got in there, and of course, in the entire place, ours was the only baby that hated a face mask. So
refused.
refused.
Yeah,
So the longest that Kali wore a face mask was like around a minute, and then she'd tear it off.
yeah. So what we had actually, we also had a face shield. But I think the best option is to get one of those bucket hats with the little uh,
Yeah,
plastic protection in front. I think that's something that she possibly could have worn for like 10 minutes versus 1 minute. But
yeah.
so
Instead of having a mask in front of, right under skin,
yeah,
they wore those little hats.
little
Yeah,
bucket hat with a plastic covering. So totally recommend that before you travel to try to get that.
that was good. And also at the airport, of course, we exercise social distancing, but still, people were still crowding. People were standing in line. There was a guy behind us who was coughing.
Yeah,
While we were standing in line to check in,
and you
and
know how scary that is.
we were
Oh
scared.
my
And so
god,
I
he's
like,
coming.
so I basically told Sarah, says, go take Kali and walk her around while
Yeah,
I
we
stand in
were
line for check-in.
completely social distance the whole way.
Yeah, the whole way.
I
Yeah,
mean, I had actually Kali was pushing her own cart while I was holding her. She just got into this thing. It was probably the most tiring social distancing I've ever done in my life.
yeah,
I was holding her, she's pushing her own baby cart, and she wouldn't let go of the baby cart. So you can't put her in there, and you can't like reposition her, or else she's gonna like throw a tantrum because she really wants her hands to be on the handles. It was just like, oh my god, I'm just keeping her safe. Come on, mom, you can do it. Just another 10 minutes. This is nothing. You lift some water bottle weights in the
yeah.
in quarantine. You worked out for 3 months just to get to this day. Come on.
That's one tip for parents traveling with babies and toddlers and kids, is try to get like the forward seats
Right.
that's closest to the that's right by the bulkhead basically,
Yes.
because then you don't really have anyone in front of you. Also, in terms of convenience, it's a lot easier to move around, with a child. Ended up not sitting at the bulkhead, but we were sitting close to it, close enough, and it's
Yeah.
close to the exit, so it's good.
There's
Uh,
one thing that I did notice was that Eva Air, they do want you to prepare your own gloves. I
yeah,
didn't know that, but actually, when I got onto the plane, there was like, "Oh, did you prepare your own gloves?" I was like, "We didn't." That was one thing that we didn't do,
yeah,
and I think it's really useful to make sure that you prepare some sort of a blanket or something to put onto the chair or anything, because you know that your baby, our baby, just loves to eat all like eat and touch and lick everything. So
yeah, yeah.
it'd be good to make sure you have those kind of things to bring with you.
Of course, infants, they're not going to want to have a face mask. They're not going to want to put any covering on their
Mm-hmm.
faces. They're going to keep tearing it off. How do you prevent them from doing that? We use a nursing blanket to cover the
Mm-hmm.
baby during the flight, especially when people are around, and
Yeah.
of course, we made sure that we didn't sit, you know, very close to anyone, so
Right.
we picked a row where there was actually no one in the entire row, there's no one
Right.
but us.
Right.
Yeah, we paid a little bit extra for that, but it's really it's worth it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
not
it's 100% worth it.
it's not that much more expensive, so and Taipei airports are very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we landed, it was so easy. It's like everything was like clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
We went through the whole health checks and all that stuff. Quarantine checks.
Right. When you get there, you are asked to fill out some forms about your condition. Were you coughing? Do you have a fever? They check your temperature and everything. And then these forms are ones that you have to keep for the whole duration of your stay in quarantine. It'll ask you these questions every day. You have to fill it out for every single day that you're in quarantine. And then after quarantine, that's the same paper that you use to get the money from the government. It's 1,000 NT per person for
Per day.
per day for quarantine. That's the same paper that you use to apply for that. So make sure you hold on to those. Yeah.
Right, right, yeah. And contrary to what we thought as well, is when we arrived in Taipei, we didn't get a swab. They didn't
Right.
get a
We
COVID
didn't
test.
get a COVID
Yeah,
test.
and
Yeah.
no one did. Basically, they were basing it on people's reporting. People
Yeah.
basically are just honest enough to say that, yeah, we have some symptoms, or we
Yeah.
had this, or we had that.
Yes.
And most Taiwanese are very disciplined enough to tell the truth and about their condition, because
Yeah.
the government doesn't like really persecute you per se for being sick. They actually take care of you. So
Yeah.
it's better to tell the government that
Yeah.
the authorities, that you have some kind of symptoms, even if you're not coughing, even if you don't have a fever, but if you're starting to have like a few things like dizziness, loss of the sense of smell,
Yeah.
you might as well fess up, because the government will do everything to take care of you. And on top of that, even if you're asymptomatic, you go straight to quarantine. You don't get picked up by friends or whatever. You basically ride a quarantine taxi,
Yeah.
and they take you straight from the airport to your quarantine, so you have no contact with the outside world
Yeah.
until after 14 days of
Yeah.
quarantine. So
Yeah.
if you're asymptomatic, and you eventually develop symptoms, it will be while you're in quarantine.
Yeah. There's
No.
also one thing to know. I think that Taiwanese in general are very respectful about other people.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if for like by love of God, if someone was sick, if they were like in their hearts they knew they were sick, or there was any kind of problem, they would 100% go and check it out to make sure that they don't inconvenience anyone else.
I think the culture for the Taiwanese, the culture of wearing masks is not to protect yourself, but to protect others.
Yeah.
It's to be respectful, of others.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
want to breathe on someone's face, kind of thing. So and
Yeah.
it's basically like covering your mouth when you cough. Even pre-COVID, you
Yeah.
go into trains, into the subway, and people are wearing masks.
One thing I wanted to touch on was that during quarantine, while we're in the the 14 days, how did they monitor you? So they actually call you every single day. They have a representative that calls you every day to check on your conditions. You know, they're super nice too. They're like, hey, how are you doing? You know, and
Make
they
sure you keep your phone on.
yes, would you like to say something about that, Vince?
No, you say it.
Okay, so you know, Mama Brain, sometimes I forget to charge my phone. So maybe like the night before, sometimes if I'm gonna feed Kali to sleep or something like that, I'll just pass out. And so I forgot to charge my phone. Come the next day, I think it was around
10 a.m.
10 a.m. It was 10 a.m. My phone was off, like 100% off. And then I freaking get someone knocking on the door. I was like, did you call Uber Eats? I didn't call Uber Eats. Did you get takeout? I'm like, no. Who is it? Hey, hey, open the door! What's going on? And we were like, oh my god. And I mean, they're in like their gear. They're in like their like SWAT gear. They're like, hey, are you in there? I'm like, yes, I'm here. What did I do wrong? They're like, did you answer your phone? I'm like, what phone? Ah, where's our phone? I'm freaking out. Where's my phone? And I see it's like off, and I'm like, oh, okay, turn on my phone. And then I was like calling the guy, like the guy who calls me every day. I'm like, I'm here. The police are here. I didn't go anywhere. I promise. I really didn't go anywhere. I didn't go out of my house. And he's like, okay. And then I actually hung up on the cops by accident. It was pretty bad. But anyways, nothing happened because they're like, oh, okay, you're still in the house. You didn't leave. But geez, do not answer your phone in those 14 days because they will come and get you. If you step out of your house, they're watching. They're watching.
You know
Yeah.
they're very serious here in Taiwan about
Yes.
epidemics and and viruses and stuff like that.
In fact, you have to schedule trash pickups with them. You can't even take out the trash. You can't go out to take out your trash. So they'll call you and they'll schedule a time. You can actually only take out your trash like 2 or 3 times a week. So you actually have to schedule a time, prepare all your trash. In fact, they make you freeze your tuyu. Tuyu is the food trash. So you put your food trash into the freezer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then once the trash man comes over, you give him everything. But yeah, they don't let you like even take out like throw out your trash. Yeah, so that was sort of our experience with the quarantine here in Taiwan. We thought it was organized. It was well thought out. People were, you know, actually accountable for what what we were doing. And then, and the relief goods were amazing. So
Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah.
By the way.
Really good, really
Yeah.
good. We're still like eating some of them right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, we're still eating some of them right now, like the black sesame that you get.
And at the end of those 14 days, when we finally got out into the sunlight and all that stuff, it's like, boom, wow, hallelujah, we are free. And Kali's like running up and down the street. She had started to walk already. While we were in quarantine, she started walking. And she was just, she was loving it, She
Yeah.
was-
And everything's freaking normal here. It's
Everything's
insane to go from living in the Philippines on lockdown to Taiwan. It
Yeah.
was amazing.
like enjoying things that you normally enjoy on a normal basis. Suddenly they're not like common anymore because of COVID.
Yeah.
Then we get out of quarantine and we realize that in Taiwan everything is just normal. you know?
Life and life. And that's going to be where we're going to end this note of our COVID situation in Taiwan, where we've arrived here in this lovely place. Thanks, guys.
Oh. Ow.
Just don't forget to follow us if you want to see Kali eating her own toes on Kung Fu Mama Show, IG, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Mama Brain. Anyways, Kung Fu Mama Show! Thanks guys for watching. We love you. Mwah!
Oh.